Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Season 6 of Sahaba Role Models, Faith Under Fire. This season was inspired by what we're witnessing in Gaza and Palestine, where new ceasefires are just beginning and faith continues to be tested daily. It made us reflect on how the Sahaba stood firm during moments of uncertainty, balancing belief with strategy and courage with wisdom. In this season, we'll explore those timeless moments of strength, starting with Nuaym ibn Masud, may Allah be pleased with him, who showed that even when the world faces uncertainty, faith remains the greatest strategy.
Today, our mission is really to focus in. We're looking at the Battle of the Trench, a huge crisis moment, but through the lens of one specific person, Nuaym ibn Masud.
That's right. And we've got some compelling source material here, stuff that really pushes us to ask a central question about him.
Yeah, a real tension.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When Nuaym made that move, the one that effectively saved Medina, was it driven mainly by his, newfound faith, or was it pure strategic brilliance?
Like calculated cunning.
Right. Our source, Faith versus Strategy, actually argues it's not really an either-or. It suggests it has to be a mix, a synthesis of both.
And that's what makes this so relevant for you listening right now. It's more than just history. It's this timeless thing about how you balance your deepest beliefs with, well, the practical, sometimes tough actions you need to take when things get intense.
So to really get the impact of what he did, we need to understand who he was before all this.
Okay, let's set that stage. So Nuaym ibn Masud, he didn't exactly start out as, a deeply spiritual person.
No, the sources paint a picture of someone very much involved in the politics and social life of the Arabian Peninsula back then. Known for charm, definitely. Wit, and really skilled diplomacy.
A man of the world, it sounds like. Like influence, maybe some pleasure.
That's the impression. His main thing wasn't devotion, it was connections. Being able to navigate complex situations.
Yeah, right, an operator. The sources say he traveled a lot, maintained relationships across the board.
Yeah, crucial relationships between the Quraysh in Mecca, the big Ghatafan tribes, and importantly, the Jewish tribes based in Medina. He was right in the middle of all the power players.
Sitting at that intersection, so his skill was building leverage. Is that fair?
I think so. The sources stress these weren't connections built on, shared faith or deep ideals. It was more about trade, pragmatic alliances, mutual benefit.
He understood the dynamics, what made people tick.
Definitely. He knew, for instance, the Ghatafans' debts, maybe the Quraysh's pride, and perhaps certain underlying anxiety among the Madinan tribes, like the Quraza. He knew the pressure points.
Okay, so here's the first challenge from the sources then. If he already had this amazing network, this influence, and he was using it just for worldly stuff, trade, status, diplomacy. Does that mean the strategist persona, the character he built, was basically separate from any later faith he adopted? Like, he already had all the tools he'd need later on.
That's the paradox laid out right at the start. He was a master networker way before he converted. His fundamental character involved, calculating leverage, maintaining those ties.
So the idea is maybe his later success wasn't some brand new skill given by faith.
But maybe faith channeling a skill he'd already perfected, sharpened to a razor's edge, as the source puts it.
Okay, that really sets things up. An influential guy, incredibly well-connected, who knew exactly how alliances worked, and maybe more importantly, how fragile they could be.
Especially when fear and self-interest get thrown into the mix.
But then everything changes, and the timing. Wow, it happens during the Battle of the Trench.
Yeah, the absolute worst moment, you could argue. Medina's under siege by this huge coalition. The Confederates, they're surrounded.
Pressure cooker situation. Survival uncertain, supplies running out, just desperate.
And it's right then, in the middle of that intense siege, that Nuaym ibn Masud makes his move. He goes secretly, meets the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
And embraces Islam.
Yes. But here's where that faith versus strategy tension really ramps up.
Because he keeps it secret.
Completely secret. He stays right there inside the enemy camp, hiding this massive spiritual shift.
Yeah.
If anyone found out, well, that would be instant death for him.
So the sources really dig into this, right? The ambiguity of it.
They do. They ask, could this conversion, happening when he's surrounded by his old allies, could it be seen as just a really smart, calculated move?
Like a strategist realizing which way the wind was blowing. Or maybe seeing the moral high ground.
Or maybe just pragmatically guessing who might eventually win. That's one interpretation. But the source material we have pushes back against that purely cynical reading.
Okay, how so?
It makes a strong case that keeping his faith hidden like that, under those conditions.
Mm-hmm.
That was faith under extreme pressure. It argues it wasn't just about odds.
It required something deeper.
The immense conviction, yeah. To hold on to a belief that fundamentally changes who you are while pretending to be someone else in a totally hostile environment, that takes serious internal strength, real resolve.
So it's like a test of how genuine his conversion was.
Absolutely. He had to be solid inside, truly believe it, before he could even think about acting on it outwardly. The source suggests this secret conversion was almost the fuel.
The fuel that let him take the incredible personal risk later on.
Exactly. The risk involved in the strategy he was about to deploy.
Which brings us to the mission itself, the moment he gets his instructions. And this is where faith and strategy are explicitly told they need to work together.
Yes. He gets his direction from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the instruction is really telling.
What was it again?
You are only one man, but use whatever you can to protect us.
Wow. Okay, so not go fight.
No, not at all. It's fascinating because it essentially validates who Nuaym was. It demanded strategy. The Prophet, peace be upon him, wasn't asking for battlefield heroics from him.
He was asking him to use his specific, unique skills, the ones he'd honed in that worldly arena.
His mind, his network, his understanding of people, his cunning even, but now directed towards a higher purpose, a spiritual goal.
It's like an immediate strategic realization. Nuaym's value wasn't his sword arm, it was his ability to influence, to work psychologically.
Precisely, his leverage.
Okay, so let's unpack the execution, because this is where you really see his deep grasp of tribal psychology.
Absolutely. He had to exploit the fundamental weakness of any coalition like that, especially one formed quickly. The underlying self-interest, the suspicion that always exists between different groups, especially when things get tough. He tapped right into the transactional nature of their existing relationships.
So, first move.
Yeah.
Targeting the Banu Qurayza, the Jewish tribe allied with the Confederates.
Yes. He goes to them, remember, as a trusted friend, someone they know, and he plants a very specific doubt.
He suggests the big guys, Quraysh and Ghatafan, might just pack up and leave if the siege drags on too long.
Exactly. That they'd cut their losses and leave Qurayza to face the Muslims alone, which historically wasn't an unreasonable fear. Alliances back then could be pretty shaky.
Okay, clever. But what was the action point?
He advises Qurayza, for their own protection, to demand hostages from the Quraysh and Ghatafan leaders, right now, as proof of commitment.
Ah, hostages. That would guarantee the other tribes couldn't just abandon them.
Correct, but think about the psychological effect of just asking for hostages.
It immediately introduces friction. Distrust. It's not just a logistical step.
Precisely. He knew that demand would stall everything. It would make the Quraysh and Ghatafan leaders pause, get suspicious. Paranoia would spike.
Brilliant. Okay, then the pivot.
Then he pivots. Nuaym ibn Masud, may Allah be pleased with him, goes straight to the leaders of Quraysh and Ghatafan. These guys are already getting restless about how long the siege is taking, how much it's costing.
And he tells them the opposite.
Pretty much the opposite story. He warns them. Says something like, be careful. I hear Qurayza might be making a deal with Muhammad behind your backs.
No way.
Yes. And that their demand for hostages, it's actually a trap.
A trap.
He claimed Qurayza planned to grab those prominent hostages and hand them straight over to the Muslims, peace be upon him, as a goodwill gesture to get back in their good graces.
That is incredibly risky.
Yeah.
And clever, playing on existing prejudices.
Totally. He used the known arrogance, maybe, of the Quraysh leaders, their likely assumption that a smaller tribe might betray them. He turned their own mindset against them, and the speed, the specificity of the lies, back to back.
It's pure psychological warfare. The source argues this specific result, the alliance is just crumbling, was all down to his cleverness, his understanding of people.
That's the argument. Surgical cleverness, a deep read on human vulnerability. So what happens? The Confederates, hearing Nuaym's warning, refuse to give any hostages.
Of course, and the Qurayza.
They see this refusal, and for them, it confirms Nuaym's first warning that they were indeed going to be abandoned.
Wow. So his words created this self-fulfilling prophecy of distrust.
Exactly. Imagine the pressure he was under, though. Walking between these camps, enemies of his new faith, planting these conflicting stories. One wrong word, one nervous glance.
And his cover's blown, his faith is exposed, the plan fails, and he's dead. He wasn't using a sword, was he?
No, he's using information and misinformation. A terrifyingly powerful weapon in that situation.
The result, purely psychological breakdown.
Immediate and total. These groups, united just days before against Medina, suddenly couldn't trust each other. They were focused inward on their own suspicions. The alliance just disintegrated from within.
Okay, so we've definitely established the strategy was brilliant, executed perfectly, based on knowledge he already had. But here's the question that brings us back, the one for you listening. If he was such a great strategist anyway, why did he need the faith component? Why risk everything if it was just a smart political maneuver?
Right. That's the core question, isn't it? Motivation versus execution. And this is where the source offers that synthesis we mentioned. It argues the faith wasn't separate. It was the motivation. It provided the courage.
The courage to use his strategic mind for something bigger than herself.
Exactly. For a cause that went beyond just personal gain or tribal advantage. So if you connect the dots, the final analysis presented is pretty clear. True, effective strategy, the kind that changes things, it often flows from some kind of moral conviction.
Okay, I think I see that. That's the crucial takeaway for me, too. Faith wasn't like a substitute for smart thinking. It was the bedrock.
The foundation that made the risk possible, maybe even necessary in his mind. He trusted in Allah, yes, and he acted wisely. He used the skills he had.
But now aimed differently, driven by a powerful moral purpose.
Precisely. The goal wasn't trade routes anymore. It was saving the community. The source gives us that really concise formula to remember this. Faith empowered strategy. Strategy executed faith.
They worked together, empowering and executing. And the results on the ground were just immediate and stunning, changed history.
Absolutely. The Confederate alliance collapsed. Total confusion, distrust, then bad weather hits them too, adding to the misery and infighting.
And the siege just ends.
It lifts. Medina was saved. And crucially, without a massive, bloody battle that could have destroyed either side.
Wow. So this story really serves as a model for us, doesn't it?
I think it's a perfect model. It shows that courage, conviction, they shouldn't make you reckless. They should give you the strength to take necessary risks.
And your thinking, your strategy, make sure those risks are smart ones, well planned, implemented effectively.
Right. It suggests faith should be this active foundation, something you build your smartest, most practical plans on. It's not passive.
It's an engine for considered action.
Yeah. The lesson maybe is we should all aim to be people who, act with that kind of faith, but also think with real clarity.
Act with faith, think with clarity. I like that. Which brings us to our final thought for you today, a really provocative line from the source material reflecting on Nuaym ibn Masud's life.
What is it?
When faith guides the mind, strategy becomes a weapon for peace.
A weapon for peace. That's powerful.
Something to reflect on. How does your inner conviction shape your outer actions? Keep exploring that connection.
طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير داع ما شاء الله we did it الحمد لله ما شاء بارك الله فيكم